Hold my hand and come along with me through the catacombs of my life, my spirit and my soul, and into the rainbow of my joy and my love to you. Welcome to Come Along, the stories of my life.
Well, hello, all of you. I love you all, wherever you may be. My name is Mark Allyn with Bellingham Radio, and welcome to yet another episode, a chapter, chunk, or whatever you want to call it, of this special series, Come Along. We're going to proceed on from where we left off, dangling loose in a small house in North Reading, Massachusetts. We escaped the tobacco farm in North Carolina with its miserable low wages and the horrible grasp of this evil senator by the name of Jesse Helms. Jesse Helms almost throttled his hands around Arthur Rosenall when he was just arriving in prison. Arthur cried to me, and I responded, and we embraced just in time. When Arthur arrived in my hands and I embraced him, Arthur became safe in my own heart and escaped that horrible senator. Well, North Reading was kind of a staging point. Think of a 26-mile marathon. North Reading was the rest stop at maybe 6 or 7 miles. That last stop that you can rest, have something to eat, drink, and socialize before the long sprint ahead. Only a few things in North Reading. It was a beautiful little house. Tiny kitchen on the first floor, tiny living room, and a small den with the laundry. And I think it was 2 or 3 tiny bedrooms on the second floor. Most notable was the wonderful, delightful amount of pine paneling in that house. I could smell that paneling now, nearly 65 years later. I'm 70 years old now. I think I was close to 5, when we finally left North Carolina. The house was simple. It was small. The most notable thing I remembered was that when the professional photographer came to visit us for our annual Christmas photo with the 6 of us during the first year, just 3 siblings. My older brother wasn't born yet. There was 4 of us kids, mom and dad, 6 people in that old beat-up sofa. And he would take several pictures so Mom and Dad could make their selection. I knew I was scared. I was scared of that bright flash. This had more implications later, I'll talk about later. I always hid behind my mom's arms. One time I even hid behind Mom's skirt so the light would not hit me. Every single time we had the professional photographer take our annual Christmas picture. First with the 6 of us, then when my younger brother was born, the 7 of us on that sofa. You always saw my own face hiding behind something in total fear. Oh, brother, I think that's just really about it. There was an irony. The yard of our house in North Reading was flat. Great, wonderful yard to have playground equipment because it was flat. The yard of our future home in Winchester was slightly sloped. Having a swing set on that yard, as I'll talk about later, was a very, very interesting challenge. Same goes with a wading pool. We made a mistake because we were too young to have a full swing set and wading pool in North Reading, but that's the way things go. So we grew quickly, and only within a few years we outgrew that small house, and we were in need of another bigger house. It took some looking, and it took yet another wonderful, helpful hand from Grandpa, Mom's father. He helped us purchase the house in Winchester. Of course, we sold the house in North Reading, and we moved to Winchester. Wow. W-O-W with a capital W. Wow. The house in Winchester, Massachusetts, was a beautiful craftsman home on Crescent Road. The exterior was stucco, which is not really notable. Boy, the insides were beautiful. It was on a hill, a banking. The yard was kind of a hill, which made it horrible for regular playground equipment, but really fun for sledding, but more on that later. The house was just right for us. It was as if a gentle hand came down from the cosmos and made the selection for us. There were 7 of us. That house was perfect. It had 6 bedrooms, 1 for Mom and Dad, and 1 for each of us. You enter the house through the front door, which was a beautiful mahogany door with a large panel of beveled glass, like entering a manor. The first room on the left was the lord of the manor's office. It was a small den with a window that overlooked the porch and overlooked Crescent Road down below. Very, very appropriate. Next on the left is a wonderful staircase. You go up to a landing, turn right, and continue up onto the second floor. On the second floor were 4 large bedrooms and a very nice, bright, and airy bathroom with a large 5 or 6 foot tub. Those bedrooms were my mom and dad, my sister Nancy,
my sister Susan, and my younger brother, Deridasa. The stairs to the third floor were just to the right of the stairs coming up from the first floor. A little bit more narrow, you arrive into a very, very cozy, quirky third floor. A bedroom to your right, a small one, with my older brother Chris, and the smallest bedroom to the back with my own bedroom with a small dormer window on the third floor overlooking one of my neighbors. The third floor also had a small, very, very quirky bathroom. It did have a 6-foot steel clawfoot tub. The toilet came right out of the Smithsonian Museum, very old, with a very unusual round tank. Let's go back downstairs, looking ahead as you exit the stairs on the first floor was the main living room with two bay windows. That living room, we spent many, many wonderful family time together, which I remember fondly to this day. The fireplace was at a 45-degree corner, and the black fireplace with a large mantelpiece. Most important was the wall above the fireplace. It was pure white. That is where we projected our home movies. Wonderful family films were projected on that wall. Let's move along. A notable piece of furniture in that living room was the coffee table. Notable because that's where we had a monthly family talent show. More on that later. The Christmas tree was also in the living room in a corner, right in front or full view of the stairs. And when we came down for Christmas, there it was. Moving along from the living room, we enter a formal dining room. Well, something we did not have in North Reading. Bright bay windows and plenty of room for a dining room table seated 7 people. Wonderful, noisy, joyful, and hilarious dinners were spent in that dining room. Moving through the dining room toward the back of the house, we enter the pantry. Very functional, with a dishwasher, the sink, the counter, many cabinets, and of course the refrigerator. That room, that is where I learned to make my famous Mark Allyn brownies. More on those later. It's also the place where Mother and myself spent many wonderful afternoons just talking while she made dinner. Spinning around the corner of the pantry, we enter the kitchen. A large, roomy kitchen, slightly dingy floor, but ample room with the basics, the stove, counter space, and a wonderful eating area. There was a door that led to the basement, but more on that later. Once you leave the kitchen, you're back into the main hallway going out to the front of the house. A beautiful footnote of that house was the fact that there were bay windows on 2 sides of that first floor as well as the second floor. It was the most daylight, bright house of all the houses I ever lived in. It also had a large front porch, not enclosed, mind you, but still covered, so you can sit and relax outdoors even when it's raining. Now, let's talk about the neighborhood. The neighborhood was so close. North Reading, we never made any friends. We were kind of on our own. Winchester, boy, we blossomed. Us children and the neighbors' children formed our own communities. That was perhaps the tightest community neighborhood that I have ever lived in. Nobody locked their doors. We could walk into each other's homes almost as much as we wanted to. And the children were very close. There is a lot I'm going to talk about in Winchester. Winchester alone is going to take several of these episodes. Now, where the heck to begin? I mustn't forget, located in a beautiful, charming old farmhouse in Winchester was a Montessori called Children's Own School. Dorothy Grove was the director, a wonderful woman, the children's grandmother. She was a protege of none other than Dr. Montessori herself. There were about 10 to 15 children in that rambling old house. The many bedrooms were the classrooms, and a small dining room on the first floor was our school cafeteria. We all sat around the large, circular, beautiful wooden table in a nice, cozy setting. A remarkable milestone during my time at Children's Own School was that I had a date. Yes, a date, not with a guy, but a wonderful little girl by the name of Maddie Fletcher. She was about my age, maybe 1 year older. I was in nursery school and she was in kindergarten. We met during recess, and I asked my mother if I could bring her home for my birthday party, and she said yes. So, a date in nursery school with a girl, even though I grew up to be a gay man. One interesting thing about Maddie Fletcher is that her parents' home had clear plastic slipcovers over their furniture. I found those remarkable and intriguing. I will tell you more about that strange story later on. We had a wonderful playground at Children's Own School. They had a big piece of property, and there were swing sets, slides, sandboxes, everything. And it was surrounded by a beautiful wooden fence, just like the olden days. Yes, a place deep in my heart. Children's Own School, 86 Main Street in Winchester. If you're hearing me, yes, I love you. I was still scared of cameras. That was not left behind in North Reading. Yes, we got our first swing set. Now, this is going to be interesting. Dad bought a cheap
Sears and Roebuck swing set that had 2 regular swings, and it had a double swing where 2 people were seated across from each other, facing each other. Then it had a built-in slide. Like anything that people bought from Sears those days, you had to assemble it. Put tube A into hole B. Secure it with bolt C using a wrench D. You know, it's very interesting. Sears Roebuck, with its companion Montgomery Ward, or what we call Monkey Wards, all the big toys had to be assembled. This was decades before IKEA was even a dream of a child. I mean, they had it right. I mean, they were playing the game first. They have first dibs on the concept. So Dad built our swing, and we put it in the backyard. The front yard was very, very hilly. The backyard was also hilly, but it was the least hilly of the entire yard that we had. Now, for a swing set, that means some very funny things, and children take advantage of these funny idiosyncrasies, and the Allyn children were the worst. A swing set, and by the way, this was an A-frame type swing set. There was one crossbar on top from which the swings hung. It was supported by 2 A-frame assemblies. Each assembly had 2 rods going from the top at angles to the ground, and there was a crossbar in the middle of each A-frame to support it. Now, the trick is that you need to be careful to make sure that the 4 feet stay on the ground constantly, no matter what the children were doing. With us, it became impossible because through the basic laws of physics, if you swing high enough, the center of gravity would move up and to this whichever side of the swing set you are on, okay, which tends to pull the top tube towards you, and also, if you're high enough, further up from the ground. Now, what that means is that the legs on the opposite side of the swing set may come up off the ground briefly until you start swinging backwards, and gravity will pull those legs back down. This process was called pumping. Us children called it pumping. We learned that every single child in Winchester, as well as every single child in the galaxy and in the cosmos, were very much aware and took very big advantage of pumping. Pumping is fun. However, it is risky. If you go too high and too forceful, the center of gravity goes higher and the pull goes greater. You could pull enough so when the legs come up off the ground, instead of coming back down, you'll still have enough momentum that the legs keep coming up, and then the swing set will fall over on top of your head. And that's not very nice. If things are right, the top bar will hit you over the head. And, anyhow, we were lucky. We did one heck of a lot of pumping. So much pumping that you could almost consider it EDM or techno music. All you need are the harmonies, but you had the thump, 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 thump for the percussion. It was that power, that regular with us. Fortunately, by the grace of the cosmos, no one in our family pulled the swing set over, all over and fell. We hear rumors of others, but nobody that we knew. This was acutely a problem with us because if a swing set is on a slope and you're swinging as hard as you can and you're on the downhill side of the swing set, it's easier to cause the swing set to tip over behind you. So to counterbalance that, we would swing facing the uphill side and cause the downhill legs to pump. But the risk of that is that when you swing backwards, the uphill legs, which are in front of you, will go too high and you would fall on your back with the top tube landing on your face. Not very good. Well, that did not happen. Now, the big unfortunate thing, the one that was real thing that was really unfortunate was the fact that the playground swing sets at our local schools, those legs were anchored by cement blocks, so they could not be pumped. We were angry. We wanted to pump the swings during recess. We wanted to create the percussion of the techno music so the teachers in the school can dance during their breaks. But nope, the Winchester, Massachusetts School Committee, they were mean. They said no. So much of that. So, pumping swing sets, and Allyn and Winchester and Massachusetts, tradition that reached into the galaxies. So that was now in North Reading, it would have been harder, but that's flat. But that's a whole nother. Let's forget about North Reading. So, big tradition, pumping.
Well, I think this is a good point to close this chapter of Come Along. We'll continue on later with Welcome to Winchester. As with all videos and audio files, if you see a goofy 70-year-old man dancing around Bellingham in funny, colorful clothing, please stop and say hi and let's have a chat. As with all videos, I'd like to conclude by saying, let my love reach out to you all. Yes, I love you all.